your audience. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. George Mills.
One week, one theme, 600 plus children, 3 hours each night of pure, unadulterated fun. Wild Adventures was this year's theme at our church's annual Power Quest event, which is a week-long church revival for children from ages 6 to 11. This event is an adrenaline-filled, sugar-saturated, voice-losing week of praise and worship. Pastors, parents, preteens, and prepubescents all gather in their motley crews of 36 teams in competition for spirit, fundraising, athleticism, and team competitions. For 2.5 hours each night, it's pure organized chaos. However, in the last 30 minutes, the head youth pastor provides a 10-minute message to all the children. Let me repeat that. The head youth pastor provides a 10-minute presentation to 600 plus hopped up on sugar little ones that have the attention span of a gnat. The amazing part wasn't that he held their attention for 10 minutes, but he held it also while providing them a very good message and a meaningful message. One of the key elements that we all learn in Toastmasters in having a successful speech is to know your audience. Whom are you presenting to? Is it a mature crowd? Is it a younger crowd? Is it a mixed crowd? Does the audience understand your topic? Does the audience agree with your point of view? Knowing your audience is a key ingredient to having a successful speech. And boy, did Pastor Mike ever know his audience. Let's go down the list of things that I think I can infer that he utilized for analyzing and knowing his audience during Power Quest. Number 1, huge audience. I got it. Let's create a large, elaborate set that's a jungle theme and have all the attention directed towards the stage, even from the back of the room. Check. Number 2, over 600 children that have been encouraged for the past 2.5 hours to scream their heads off. Let's choose something that I can get their attention and make sure they're paying attention to the important points. Let me use a key phrase. A flat tire goes. Check. Number 3, dress appropriately for the occasion. Full safari outfit while looking like a complete idiot. Check and check. Number 4, have a simple yet effective message that the whole entire audience can understand. How about the story of Adam and Eve and the snake in the Garden of Eden? Check. And number 5, a closing statement that children will remember for the rest of their lives. Check. Now in the last 15 minutes or so, there's a skit before the pastor actually comes out on the stage. Then in the last 10 minutes of the presentation, the head pastor comes out on the stage. Pastor Mike enters the stage, and there's a loud, thunderous roar and applause like he's Mick Jagger entering Wembley Stadium. The pastor proceeds to talk, and the kids start to get quiet. But not all the kids get quiet. There's a few who don't fully comprehend that it's time to get quiet and listen to the message. So, Pastor Mike just immediately says, and a flat tire goes, and the whole entire audience on cue, shh. Complete silence. The pastor then goes on to tell the story about Adam and Eve and the snake and how he tricked them into committing sin. Then the pastor said something that even caught my attention. He said, sin, we all know it's bad, but sometimes the devil presents it in a form in which we think it's not that bad. He says, sin is like a dirty diaper. And to further illustrate this point, he produces a dirty diaper. And he says, sin is like a dirty, stinky, poopy diaper. We all know it's gross and disgusting. But the devil tricks us into saying that, hey, it's not that bad. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's not that bad. No one will ever know. You're not doing anything wrong. The pastor then proceeds to say that he further tricks you. Ah, man, no one will ever know. And he proceeds to top his poo sundae with the whipped cream on top. With a cherry on top. The next thing you know, sin is staring you directly in the face. And you know, it doesn't look that bad. And the pastor proceeds to get closer. Get closer. He eats the poo sundae. Now, the pastor's in a home run in his speech preparation. He knew the size of his audience and he analyzed it thoroughly. He knew that there would be a big crowd and he had to have crowd control, so he had a device for making sure the crowd got quiet. He also dressed appropriately for his speech. He also provided a story in which everyone could relate to. And then, to top it off, he provided a closing that everyone would remember. Now, I would suggest that during your next presentation to your boss, you hurl a flaming bag of poo on the conference table saying, last year's quarter profit was a bunch of crap. But I do suggest that before you give your next presentation or your next speech, you study your audience. Then maybe you might be presenting in front of a hostile crowd. And to gain control, you might just go, and the flat tire goes, Mr. Contest Master.
Thank you, George. Well, did you enjoy that? Anybody want a spoon? Bring some things, bring some extra stuff for all of us. Our next speech will be given by, thank you for the, I'm sorry, let's have 1 minute of silence and the flat tire goes. All right, judges are ready. Thank you to the genius George Mills for that speech. Next, I would like to bring up the jovial John Matthews with this prepared speech called In Her Eyes. In Her Eyes, the jovial John Matthews.
I was under the blindingly bright lights of a hospital operating room, and a wave of shock crashed over me. A nurse approached. Mr. Matthews, she handed me a 6-pound, 7-ounce miracle wrapped the little pink blanket. Congratulations, Dad. Wow. Does this thing have an instruction manual? Mr. Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, my daughter Ella doesn't have an instruction manual. And over the last 2.5 years, an adventure of fatherhood that's been frustrating, I have learned one amazing life lesson. My adventure started that first night home from the hospital. Ella arrived about 2 weeks early, so I had to scurry around the house getting everything ready. And the last thing was to build the bassinet that she would sleep in. Now, the box indicated easy assembly. The box lied. 67 steps later, I finally finished. Page 1. I had also reached my wit's end. I'll admit, Ella's first year wasn't much fun. I work as a software engineer. She made dirty diapers. It's hard to get excited about diaper duty 6, 8, 10 times a day. Picture this. It's an awkward situation. Someone is desperate for help, and you are the only person available. That sounds like table topics. Now, one of the ways that I coped was I would sing little songs. My favorite one went like this. Could be odor. Could be wetness. I know it isn't freshness. It needs work. I shared with my mother-in-law that I would be singing. She responded, I better pray. Really? For me? You do that? That's so special. I'm praying for the audience. Now, my daughter Ella is growing and she's learning, and she calls me Dada. And a few months ago, I came home and I saw her take my sneakers, and she slid her tiny toddler feet into them. And then she started to march all around the house. I smiled. I saw in Ella's eyes pure joy. There was no fear of rejection or humiliation or the eye counter. Now, my wife walks in upon the scene and adds, you should have seen her earlier. She was modeling my thongs. What? I didn't even know you had a thong. Oh. She meant flip-flops. Now, as a father, I need to protect my daughter, but at the same time, I want to spoil her. Last month, I found the perfect present that I had purchased for such an occasion. Ella, Dada got you this. This is a bikini. You wear this to the beach. Now, one night, as Ella climbed into bed, I looked down into her innocent hazel eyes. Inside, someday, a young man is going to come along. He will try to win your heart. Someday, when you're 30. Now, I knew that I needed guidance about my daughter and dating. I mean, this is a really complicated topic. Joe is an elder at my church. And last Sunday, I approached him. Joe, I have a little girl. Oh, good luck with that. Now, I want to raise my daughter. It's dating. And what changes do I need to make? She'll make your hair turn gray. Or she'll make you go bald. This really wasn't working out in my favor. And then Joe continued dating. I started this deep conversation when my daughter was about your age. I looked into her angelic blue eyes and said, no. Now, as she's grown, she is a teenager, that conversation has changed and it's grown more complex. Now I look straight into her teenage eyes and say, no. this wasn't exactly what I was thinking. I wanted to learn more, so I approached Ty, who's another elder at my church. He has a daughter that's graduated college. Ty, what does it take to raise a daughter? She'll take all your money. She'll take all your patience. And then he stared at me and said, that little girl, she will grow up. If you do everything right someday, she will move out. Ty's voice quivered. When that U-Haul drives down out of sight, she'll take your heart. John, God gave you a gift in that little girl. Tomorrow, whether she clutches her favorite doll and greets you at the door with smiling eyes, or those same eyes well up with tears from a fall on the floor, she needs to know that she's important in your eyes. Tell her she's important. John, this message doesn't just apply to your daughter, it's really to everyone in your life. So you mean my wife? Yes. And my mom? Yes. And my mother-in-law? Ladies and gentlemen, someone in your life needs to know that they are important. It's probably not your mother-in-law. Maybe a friend or a coworker, or even the person seated next to you today. I encourage you to use a kind word to lift them up. Last night, before bedtime, I had that opportunity to give a simple message to Ella to let her know that she was important. I looked into her eyes and said, Ella, boys are stinky. But Dad loves you. Dad will always love you. Mr. Contest Master.
Oh, it's supposed to be a humorous contest or make you cry. And you who have daughters in here will understand. And if you have kids will completely understand. You got to have a minute on the clock for our judges. Thank you very much. Thanks again to the jovial Johnny Matthews for that speech. We're going to bring up the amazing Alan Thomas. The art of stealing candy from a baby. The art of stealing candy from a baby, Mr. Alan Thomas.
Mr. Contest Master, judges, esteemed colleagues, honored guests, have any of you over the past year or two been out and witnessed the spectacle of Halloween in Atlanta? Has anybody done that? For some reason, it's way different than it was when I was a boy. It is a sight to behold. When I was a boy, Halloween was a very modest event. We would go out, my sister and I, with a couple of friends that lived near us. We would have a very small, modest bucket. We'd have modest costumes on. We would go from house to house, maybe 15 or 20, and they would put small pieces of candy in our very small bucket. It doesn't work that way anymore. Last Halloween in my neighborhood, I was stunned by the throngs of kids in the street. and throngs of parents in the street going from house to house. Cars were lined up, dropping kids off in the neighborhood so they could go trick-or-treating. And it's not the small pieces of candy that we used to have. It's movie theater size. It's extra large Baby Ruths. Huge, extravagant candies dropped into pillowcases, large sacks that the kids are dragging along behind them. It's unbelievable. And the parents are just as bad. You're not sure if it's really for the parents or for the kids. Because the people that are dispensing the candy are dressed up as witches and monsters, and there's scary music. The houses are decorated. Smoke's coming out of the garage. It's amazing to see how the lengths people go to entertain their kids. And the parents, they would get chili when they go to the door, or hot chocolate, or maybe some libation or something. And lots of red Solo cups walking all over the neighborhood. And so I forget who it's for until I see the kids dragging the bags of candy. And it's in this context and in this spectacle that I want to teach you now the art of taking candy from a baby. Now, some of you are probably saying, did he just say taking candy from a baby? Is there ever an opportunity that would be appropriate for someone who's nearly 6 feet tall, an adult man, to take candy from a child that's maybe 3 feet or 4 feet tall? Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. I believe there's a very appropriate place for that. And let me tell you why. We know from the mayor of New York, Michael Bloomberg, and others, that candy is not good for our kids. Sugar is not good for us. And we need to moderate the amount that our kids have. It's also very important to realize that the candy will rot out their teeth. And these teeth, they need to last a lifetime. God willing, another 75 years for these kids. It's the only set of teeth they'll ever have. And so we got to help them take care of it. We have an obesity problem in America with our kids. And candy contributes to that in a very big way. So we know candy's bad for kids. Maybe they shouldn't have a whole pillowcase full. And we also know that at some point in time, it's going to create friction between the parent and the child. And it may be 2 months later, the parent's long forgotten about that pillowcase full of candy, and they're going to be up in their room, and they're going to look under the kid's bed for something. And they're going to discover a half-eaten bag of candy that's bug-infested, that's melted, that's nasty, and they're going to have a stroke. They're going to yell at their kid. The kid's going to cry. Ladies and gentlemen, this angst between parent and child ought not be. When we can simply moderate the amount of candy they have at the source on Halloween. So it is appropriate to take candy from a baby for their own good in 3 easy steps. The first step to this is when the child, if you're trick-or-treating with a group of kids, and the child is coming back from the house, you simply ask them what they received. Hey, Johnny, what'd you get? It's a simple question. It's a harmless question. Johnny will respond. I got a Baby Ruth, or I got a banana Laffy Taffy, or I got an Almond Joy. Well, we all know that we have our favorite candies. And we also know the ingredients that are in those candies, and that children aren't always fond of certain ingredients. Coconut, peanut butter, nuts. Maybe that artificial banana flavor that they didn't grow up with in the way that we grew up with banana popsicles. And so, step 2, you say, ooh, an Almond Joy, and you pause. You wait just a second. You let them think. Do you like coconut? Ugh. You maybe even shudder just a little bit. That's noticeable to the child. And then, step 3, after the pregnant pause, you say, Johnny, if you don't like coconut, I'll be glad to take that from you so it doesn't get counted against your candy quota when you go home. And Johnny's like, he looks at it, Almond Joy, here you go, Mr. Thomas, and he'll hand it to you. And that's the last Almond Joy you have to ask Johnny for that day. Because after he returns from every house where he gets an Almond Joy, he'll run out and tell you, Mr. Thomas, I got another Almond Joy. And You do this en masse with all the kids. In fact, you can get ahead of the curve, and you can indoctrinate the new kids before you even go outside. And you tell all the new kids, you didn't trick-or-treat with us last year. I'm the dad that always takes the candy that nobody wants because I know that you don't like, and you just name the ingredients they don't like and the candies that go along with that. And you help them get ahead of the curve. They'll think it's their idea. For the kids that have been before with you, you just simply remind them, last year I was the dad that took your candy, and you remind them what all your favorite candies are. When you get out with the other dads, they will be dumbfounded while the kids run past them to give you their unwanted candy. But ladies and gentlemen, one word of advice. I encourage you to wear a coat with very deep pockets. Because at this point in time, it's still frowned upon just a little bit for an adult to carry their own trick-or-treat bag. As we wrap up, I do hope you won't think less of me that I have been known to take candy for children. But ladies and gentlemen, I do hope you're taking good notes so that this Halloween, you too may master the art of taking candy from a baby. Mr. Contest Master.
Fellow Toastmasters, the amazing Alan Thomas. We give a minute on the clock for the votes. And at this point, talk ballots. You're going to have to count the ballots. Okay, very good. I believe this is where y'all lead and go out and get those tallied up. While we're getting those tallied up, I'd like to go ahead and recognize people that have helped out. Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me just 1 minute. I'm going to take all the ballots out now and count those up, or do you have them ready now? go any further, I meant to bring you up earlier, but now might be a good time for you to come say a few words if you'd like to. I'd like to recognize our area governor, Audrey Shedrick. And,
I've absolutely enjoyed this session. Absolutely, this was absolutely fantastic. I would like to recognize our guests that are here. If you could stand and give us your name.
I'm Todd Ash. I'm with Fidelity Bank, and I went to a meeting last week with a different group. That's the first time I just heard about the group from a guy that was speaking at one of my events. So I'm just kind of here to see what it's all about. So thank you.
And I hope you'll come back. I really do. A couple things going on within the district. We just held makeup training for Toastmasters Leadership Institute that was well attended. If you have not made it, officers, there is another opportunity on August 15th to attend. So keep that in mind. We need to make sure at least 4 of your officers are trained. And also going on within the district, we have our fall conference coming up. How many of you have attended conferences before? Well worth it. I'm sure they will tell you, and I encourage each and every one of you to attend. Registration is underway. Go out to the district website. You are able to register. That is going to take place on November 8th and 9th at the Crown Plaza of Ravinia. So very nice property. Promise you lots of great education and fun. So please, go ahead.
Where's the Crown Plaza? Where?
Crown Plaza Ravinia, you know where Perimeter Mall is at?
Oh, yeah.
It's like right across the street from there. Very, very nice property. So you will enjoy yourself. And that's all I have for you today. I am excited to see you again, and thank you for inviting me.
thank you, Madam Mayor and Governor. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been kind of fun. Being that this is my first official humor speech contest as contest master, I'm still a little hazy on the protocol here, so bear with me. I would like to recognize some of the people that have helped out today. And, I'll, of course, recognize our others when they come back. But I wanted to give out our speech contest certificates. One to Mr. George Mills. Of course, our other speech contestant and our president, Mr. John Matthews. And the amazing, of course, Alan Thomas. He works in finance, for crying out loud. Of course he steals candies from the candy. One of our timers today, Gretchen LaHaye. I'd like to recognize our VP of Education, and she also acted as our Sergeant at Arms today, Ms. Dawn Garvin. Do want to also recognize Ms. Shedrick again. And Ms. Eloise Ford Wright, our former and lovely Madam President. Hope y'all had a good time today.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Great speech.
That's fun. You know, oh, I was thinking we were going to do that at the end, but nevertheless, I'll go ahead and bring up our contestants for our interviews at this time. I'd call up Mr. George Mills, the genius George Mills. George, thanks so much for doing this today. You're one of my personal favorites, for sure. And your speech was entertaining as always. So, now, have you ever done stand-up comedy anywhere else? Now, you're part of your church. Now, are you on staff at your church?
Well, I serve at Together Cafe at church, so we serve Mondays, coffee, all that stuff.
You have to attend at some point. That's a weakness of mine. So, now, what do you like to do in your spare time?
Like bowling, try to play golf, call it fairway terrorism. And I like playing with my kids.
Well, the kids will definitely keep your sanity and your youth. Well, actually, they won't keep your sanity. They can definitely keep you on your toes. So, I appreciate so much your participation today. It's great having you, and I enjoyed your speech as always.
Thank you.
I'd also like to bring up our current club president, Mr. John Matthews. Thanks so much for participating today.
You're welcome.
Definitely enjoyed it. Your daughter has your rap, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So what is one of the favorite things that you two like to do together?
Well, a typical evening, a couple times a week after we've had dinner, it's like, what do you do before 8 o'clock bedtime? Because she's ready to literally destroy the house. And you want to get her out of the house, so at least the destruction happens outside. And in my subdivision, there's a little island when you come in where the road splits on both sides. And inside there's some trees, grass, but there's a couple of park benches. And under each park bench, they have those little white or marbled rocks that are there. So we go down to the rocks. She likes to, go over there, seemingly grab a handful of rocks and put them up onto the bench. And the bench is a metal sort of grid, so the smaller rocks will all fit through, and then we'll try to play and get the rest of the rocks to just fit on through or something. Usually we end up with rocks all over the place. I'm trying to keep her out of traffic, and then also get the rocks put back in before we go back to home.
Have you ever misplaced her?
What would that look like?
I mean, is she walking yet? I don't.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
she's 33 months.
Okay.
Actually, 34 months today.
Okay.
So yeah, she's one.
I didn't know if you ever turned your back and she was just gone.
She's loud enough now that I'd be able to locate her.
Very good.
Track her down.
Very good. Very good. Well, I really appreciate your participation today. It's great having you as always, and I wish you well with raising your daughter in the future. If you need any pointers, give me a call. I have 2 sons, but still, I have lost.
I know. Keep them away from my daughter. Just no offense. That's
No.
just a standard answer.
We take the older women as mothers and the younger women as sisters.
There we go. All right.
Thank you. Mr. Alan Thomas, would you please join us up here at the front? Thank you, sir. So what's it like being a thief? No. So thank you so much for participating in the contest. I was very happy to get your note that you were going to be speaking. So now, you eat a lot of candy and you like to cook. And
I do. I love candy. I love a lot of the old-fashioned candy. In fact, when you go to the beach, a lot of times you can find those old-fashioned candy stores. They've had candy that hadn't been on the shelf since 1975. And those are just fun to get into and to discover those, buy a lot of it, and eat it over the week. And so we enjoy doing that.
definitely. So what have you done this summer with the kids?
Wow. Not as much as I would hope we would, because the kids were out doing stuff all summer. We had a son of ours went to Philmont in New Mexico. It was a Boy Scout camp. Spent a month out there, hiked 110 miles. My daughter went to Young Life's Frontier Ranch and spent a month out there as well on the summer staff. But in between, we went to the beach a little bit. We had lots of fun, played lots of baseball. My youngest son has got me playing tennis this summer, and so about twice a week he has me out on the tennis court. And then just last week we went up to the lake for a few days and just had a great time.
Good way to work on the
Yeah,
sugar.
that's right. Absolutely.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Alan Thomas. recognize the other two participants that we had for our contest today. Christy, would you please come up? And I want to also recognize Rolanda Rollin.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was Robert's first time being a contest master, and I think he did an awesome job.
Part of me says I don't ever want to do this again, but then that's how you get good at it, doing it again and again. So I believe at this point we're going to be bringing up the final tallies because I'm not going to be singing a song for you today. So, do I? All right. Oh, here. I was thinking of the letter. I know I didn't see you put anything up there. Ladies and gentlemen, the counts are in. May I get a drum roll, please, for second place? The jovial John Matthews. This season's A Toast Just for Laughs, Mac Toast Atlanta Humorous Speech Contest winner is, let's get a drum roll again, Mr. Alan Thomas. I know that was a tough choice because all those speeches were fabulous, were they not? I'm telling you what. Well, this brings to a close our meeting. I'm going to ask our area governor to come back up one more time and just close us out for this meeting. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me to be your contest master today. I look forward to doing this again in the future, and it will run much more smoothly like a well-oiled machine. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to our